You mean to tell me you came out here on your own and you haven't even heard from them since June? Hey, shout out to all of our new subscribers and members that have joined us here on the channel. My name is Reese Waters, and this is Who Raised Y'all, a space where we highlight those unique individuals doing their part to make our country worse. The kind of people you'll see asking to speak to the manager at the pearly gates.
I want to talk to the manager.
Now, I'm going to continue a series that I started right here on this platform about the plight of the pick-me. You know, the pick-me. Here's your definition, and I'll even use it in a sentence.
So I don't care what the media tells you, Mr. Trump. We support you. Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a hug.
Now, most of our conversations surrounding pick-me's have focused on Black conservatives. But one thing that needs to be addressed is the fact that pick-meism exists well beyond the confines of the Black community, something that became abundantly clear when former President Obama joined the conversation.
Michelle Obama gave Barack a lot of credibility, because if he'd have marched a white woman across the stage, he'd still be in Chicago. We are not the issue, but we became the issue after Trump made a play for us when nobody was talking about it.
But if the goal is to win the race, we gotta put some pressure on white women, bruh.
And that's exactly what I plan to do right now. White women have skated for a long time for their pick-meism, and somehow we decide we want to have national conversations about Black men, totally ignoring white women when it's been right in front of our faces this entire time.
Trump was not well served by those around him last night. It wasn't a Nazi rally, all that's nonsense. But I'm telling you, even for me, and I voted for Donald Trump last week, it was too brotastic. Okay? It was. You're trying to win an election.
It was too brotastic, huh? And not representative of the guy who introduced locker room talk into our political conversation.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best.
But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out.
He's a war hero because he was captured.
You've called women you don't like fat pigs.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
This was locker room talk.
You're trying to win an election in which you're hemorrhaging female voters. Maybe when you present in front of hundreds, thousands at least, at Madison Square Garden, you clean up the bro talk just a little so you don't alienate women in the middle of America who are already on the fence about Republicans.
Now, why would women in the middle of America be on the fence about Republicans? It would have to be the rampant sexism that's been a part of this campaign, which you engaged in, Megyn Kelly. Something that I addressed as our racist of the week, because that's something that you lamented was problematic during your career, the insinuation that that's what you did. But when you find yourself in this position, it's perfectly fine to throw that towards Kamala Harris. Now, I wonder why that is. Oh, that is weird. That is the kind of disconnect that I see before me right now, where you're trying to say that Madison Square Garden was too brotastic when it's perfectly representative of what this entire campaign has been. Not only that, it was pretty tame compared to his True Social account.
Do they have no women advising their campaign? Is there no actual woman sitting behind the scenes, coming up with the guest lineup and saying, let's just have a word with the guys who are going to be speaking about this isn't the bar, this isn't their living room, this is a campaign, this is politics. We're trying to get him elected. We don't need to rally the base or guys anymore.
You're asking if there are any women that are advising a campaign that allowed Laura Loomer to fly around with him going into his one and only presidential debate. I think we know the answer.
And it's not helpful, even if we do want to rally the base or guys, to go full off-color insults to different racial groups and so on. I get it. Trust me, nothing that was said offended me. I'm almost unoffendable. But I understand how this plays, especially with women, and it was an effed up choice.
Now let's follow what she's saying. It's not a problem that you feel this way. It's not even a problem that you talk this way. I don't even mind if you talk this way at one of your rallies in a very public forum. Just don't talk this way at one of your rallies in a very public forum this close to an election. Is that it?
They took what was an amazing celebration of Trump, exciting and well-attended and hugely enthusiastic, and gave themselves a big black eye. This isn't about the insane media, which did, of course, what the insane media is going to do. This is about them giving the insane media all these headlines that undermined the main man, Donald Trump, who did exactly what he should have last night. You effed up. Hopefully you'll do better in the closing week of the campaign.
That's right. All of these things undermine the main man. Let's get a look at what exactly was undermined. Let's see what the main man has to say that was undermined by all the brotastic behavior at the Garden. Now, at this moment where Megyn Kelly sees fit to take to her platform and criticize the Republicans, why would this be a moment of pickmeism? Because as she just stated in the beginning of all of that, she's already voted for Trump. So I don't know why you sitting here complaining about behavior that he and everybody around him has been exhibiting for at least 8 years. And I would probably say somewhere closer to 80.
Do you mind if I sit back a little bit? Because your breath is very bad.
This is what we've always seen, and it's never been a problem. You just mad that company came over and saw what was happening. Is that it? You just mad that company came over this close to the election and they saw what was behind the curtain. But that was all stuff that you had already excused to the point where you've already voted for the man. What you talking about, Megyn Kelly?
I effed up.
What you talking about? And this is behavior that you have engaged in. This is the epitome of pick-me behavior. However, when it comes to pick-meism, in this moment in our history, there isn't a single soul alive who exhibits the qualities to such a high degree of former presidential candidate Nikki Haley.
I don't love my husband 100% of the time.
Now, I have made my feelings on Nikki Haley quite plain here on this platform. I believe she is the most nominated for Racist of the Week since I've been doing that bit. Somehow she managed to get worse.
I find it interesting that, she's decided to go back to that January 6th moment. A lot of Americans have decided where they are on January 6th. I personally have said it was a terrible day. We should never revisit it again. But while she wants to go back to January 6th, what she doesn't want to visit is what's happened since January 6th, because we've had 4 years of record inflation. We've had unconscionable amounts of illegal immigrants, 500,000 criminal illegals alone coming across that border. You look at the fact that Afghanistan fell under their watch, unleashing this world war that we're all now having to deal with. And that's the 4 years she doesn't want to talk about. So the fact that she goes back to January 6th, people know how they feel about January 6th. What they're living right now and what they're deciding on is whether they want another 4 years like the 4 years they just lived.
It's funny that you should mention going back to January 6th. I find it to be pretty appropriate to go back to January 6th since we're, on the precipice of an election. And when it comes to accepting L's in elections where he in fact did lose, Donald Trump is batting 0%. So that seems to be pretty relevant at this particular point in time. In fact, it was something that you yourself found to be disqualifying of Donald Trump. Now look at you. Now look at you.
So this is a very close race in all of those battleground states. For you, the choice is clear?
It is clear. I mean, look, it's like what I said at the Republican National Convention. You don't have to agree with Trump 100% of the time to vote for him. And so for me, we have the choice. The choice is given. It's either Donald Trump or it's Kamala Harris. And for my family, what I'm looking at is the fact that my daughter says she can't afford groceries. And I look at an economy that's been tough for all of us. I look at my son who's worried about paying rent. I look at my husband who's a combat veteran who I worry about any world wars that are going to happen. All of these things.
For you, the choice is clear?
It is clear. I mean, look, it's like what I said at the Republican National Convention. You don't have to agree with Trump 100% of the time to vote for him. And so for me, we have the choice. The choice is given. It's either Donald Trump or it's Kamala Harris.
That's funny because you once said that our next president would be Nikki Haley or Kamala Harris. That is what you said, isn't it? Yeah, that is our choice, huh?
And if Donald Trump is the nominee, mark my words, we will see a President Kamala Harris. And for my family, what I'm looking at is the fact that my daughter says she can't afford groceries.
Ah, yes, the daughter who might lose her bodily autonomy but can't afford groceries in the economy that's had the best bounce back in the world from COVID. Yeah, let's vote on the groceries.
And I look at an economy that's been tough for all of us. I look at my son who's worried about paying rent. I look at my husband who's a combat veteran.
Now here I have a choice. Do I want to peek behind door A, where Donald Trump specifically insulted your husband and your family asking where he was? Or do I want to peek behind door B, where he has this litany of history insulting the whole military?
Who I worry about any world wars that are going to happen. All of these things have put us in a much more challenging position. With Donald Trump, we know what we're going to get. We lived the economy under Donald Trump. We know how strong he was on the border. We know how energy dominant we were. And then we also know what our national security looked like. And so I don't agree with Trump 100% of the time, but I don't agree with Kamala Harris on anything.
Now that's interesting you would say that you don't agree with Kamala Harris on anything, because in my mind, you agree with her on the most important thing, which is that Donald Trump is dangerous. Let's go to some of the things that you happen to say on the campaign trail, Nikki Haley.
He was not willing to go overseas, but supposedly because he had bone spurs. And they deserve a real choice, not a Soviet-style election where there's only one candidate, and he gets 99% of the vote.
He went on this unhinged rant. And all he did was talk about revenge. And then you look, he said anyone that supported me was barred permanently from MAGA. Then he pushed the RNC to name him the presumptive nominee. Then he lost his court case and he went on a rant again. The problem with all of that is at no point is he ever talking about the American people.
The problem now is he is not the same person he was in 2016. He is unhinged. He is more diminished than he was. If you don't know the value of our men and women in uniform, if you don't know the sacrifice that they go through, why should I, as a military spouse and all our military families, trust you to know you're going to keep them out of harm's way?
Now, I'm not going to act shocked with people running against folks in the primary and then having to turn around and support them. We saw that with Kamala Harris becoming Joe Biden's VP. We see it with a litany of people who are now supporting Kamala Harris, including Pete Buttigieg, who's probably her strongest bulldog out in these streets. I understand that is how our politics works and that's how things are set up. But when you call somebody dangerous, when you call somebody a threat to democracy, those are hard to pull back. Because at that point, Nikki Haley, you leave me no choice but to decide between you just saying stuff in order to get yourself elected, or you swallowing the fact that you think this man is in fact dangerous and trying to install him back into the White House because you find no other future for yourself politically. Now, personally, I don't find it to be reasonable to think that you're just saying stuff when the stuff that you were saying dovetails with a great number of Republicans that happen to agree with you and are still standing on business. I'm going to go with door B. You've decided that you're going to be okay with the man who's dangerous and who was a threat to democracy and who was unhinged and unfit for office. That's what you've decided for yourself. And it's also what you decided for your litany of supporters who happen to be conservative, but like the rest of us, have operable brains and understand how unfit this man is for office. I'm going to do this shameless rollover so that Trump will rub my belly and I have a political future. For the rest of y'all, oops.
What I have said since the election, since what happened, I said everything that I said on the campaign trail, I stand by. I said it because I believed it. I said it because I was telling the truth to everyone.
You know, the Harris campaign is utilizing some Republicans who've come to support her, including former Congresswoman Liz Cheney. Clearly, a lot of analysts think they're going after voters who supported you in the primary. The Associated Press says, as Democrats court Haley supporters, the former UN ambassador is still waiting to hear from Trump. When was the last time you talked to the former president?
Last time I talked to him was back in June.
So are you surprised that you haven't been deployed out to campaign, or have you volunteered to go out and campaign for him directly?
I mean, they're very aware that we're on standby. They know that we would be there to help. I've helped with some fundraising letters and text messages and those types of things. So we've done that. But look, we're on the same team. It is their campaign's decision on what he needs in these last final days. It does not bother me at all. I think they need to do what they need to do to get across the finish line. I just think that they need to focus primarily on who it is they're talking to. You've got Americans who are absolutely going to vote for Trump. You've got Americans who are absolutely not going to vote for Trump. And then you've got a percentage in the middle who like Trump policies but don't like his style. That is what they need to focus on. So when you look at these things, it has got to be a story of addition.
So let me get this straight. Trump didn't send you out here? They didn't contact you in order to try and get your voters in line? Because I assumed that's what I was looking at. You mean to tell me you came out here on your own and you haven't even heard from them since June? Is that what you're telling me? You're telling me you got up out of your house and went on Fox News to campaign for the man you call dangerous when you ain't talked to this man since June? There is a reason I said that you have all of the qualities of a pick-me to a higher degree than we've ever seen in anybody else. But I never knew you could reach these heights. It's like watching Michael Jordan blossom once he got on the Bulls. It's like watching a young LeBron James finally get it. Nikki Haley, you have the crown. And personally, I don't know what's worse. That you came out here on your own and decided to endorse this man, or the fact that he hasn't seen fit to contact you in a race that's this close when your voters are the exact voters that he needs. I don't know which one is worse.
So when you look at these things, it has got to be a story of addition. This is not a time to have anyone criticize Puerto Rico or Latinos. This is not a time for them to get overly masculine with this bromance thing that they've got going. 53% of the electorate are women. Women will vote. They care about how they're being talked to, and they care about the issues. They need to remember that. This is a time of discipline, and this is a time of addition.
Now here we see her running the exact same play that Megyn Kelly tried to run in the first video that I ran, hoping that he behaves in a way that is contradictory to how he has behaved the whole rest of his life. Now, the only reason why you would advocate for that is to try and tamp down the reality of who he actually is so that he can get people's vote. In other words, you are actively trying to pull one over on the public. And in the case of you, Nikki Haley, unlike Megyn Kelly, who hasn't run for office, you, Nikki Haley, are actively trying to pull one over on your own voters, on your own supporters, in violations of things you said yourself about this man. My goodness, I've never seen anything like this.
You mentioned the Madison Square Garden event. The former president addressed that today. Take a listen.
Madison Square Garden, the love in that room. Somebody said there was a comedian that joked about Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea who it was. Never saw him, never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him.
You know how many Puerto Rican voters there are in Pennsylvania? 273,000. This is going to cost him votes, and a substantial Puerto Rican vote, also in Michigan.
Do you think that moves the needle?
I think it's harmful. I mean, look, there's no reason to have a comedian at an election campaign event that had so much energy and so many good issues. Why have a comedian that separates people? This isn't about people being sensitive. I mean, Puerto Ricans, that's personal for them. They take that personally. So they were right to denounce the comedian. They need to go and tell Puerto Ricans how much, they do value them. They need to tell Latinos that, but they also need to look at how they're talking about women. I mean, this bromance and this masculinity stuff, I mean, it borders on edgy to the point that it's going to make women uncomfortable. You've got affiliated PACs that are doing commercials about calling Kamala the C word, or you had speakers at Madison Square Gardens, referring to her and her pimps. That is not the way to win women. That is not the way to win people who are concerned about Trump style. This is a time to talk about the economy. This is the time to talk about immigration. This is the time to talk about national security. And this is the time to talk about Kamala Harris.
I would like to once again quote me a little bit ago when I said, it's okay that you feel this way. It's okay that you say it. It's okay that you say it in public. Just don't say it in public this close to the election. And if you are a woman and you are watching Nikki Haley actively make excuses for who they've always been, I need to know what's on your mind.
Obviously, the former president has a lot of women who are speaking out on the trail on his behalf, supporting him. But there's a lot of folks who were supporting you, who look to you as a voice that may be very effective. If you look back at The Hill, they looked back at April, it says Haley attracts more than 150,000 votes in Pennsylvania GOP primary weeks after dropping bid.
Now, one thing I would also like to address is this continued emphasis from Republicans about it was a comedian. First things first, it wasn't just the comedian. There's a litany of other extremely offensive things that were said during the course of that evening. I get why they would just want to focus on the one thing, but we need to make that clear that it was hours of this stuff, not one comment.
It's gonna be pretty hard to look at us and say, you know what? Kamala Harris, she got 85 million votes because she's just so impressive. As the first Samoan, Malaysian, low IQ, former California prosecutor ever to be elected president, it was just a groundswell of popular support.
I don't see no stinking Nazis in here.
That could be the Kamala Harris official campaign slogan. Kamala Harris, nothing comes to mind.
And in Texas, stuff is really, really crazy. We're right there by a wide open border. Where are my proud Latinos at tonight? You guys see what I mean? It's wide open. There's so many of them.
She is grossly incompetent. All you have to do is look at her.
Second thing I would like to make clear, I would like to ask, because we all know the joke that was said about Puerto Rico and island of garbage.
Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
Could he have said that about white people? Could he have made that joke about a white island? Would it have made sense? Could he have made that joke about Jewish people? You think he could have made that joke? Think he could have made that joke about Asian people? Think he could have made that about Italians? Now, the one group he definitely could have made it about is black people, because we are the universal, we can make fun of them race. He definitely could have made that joke about black people. But he made that joke about Puerto Ricans. He made that joke about Latinos. The reason why he made that joke about Latinos is because that's the environment that you have created. And I know you just want to focus on the one joke and not the hours of other things that were said. And you definitely don't want to focus on the nurturing environment you have made for those kinds of thoughts and opinions. But I'm not y'all, and I'm pointing at that. Congratulations to Megyn Kelly and to Nikki Haley. You are our nominees for Who Raised Y'all, and there's no better example for pickmeism than those two. I think I'm going to continue this series because there's some more pick-me's need to be called out. It ain't just us. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and shout out to all of our new subscribers and our members here on the channel. As many of you guys know, we in fact have merch, and we're always coming up with new ideas and different things that you guys would want to see. Well, we are about in time for Thanksgiving and the holidays, and I want to know, what is it that you guys would like to have for the holidays? What is the kind of thing that you would either want to purchase for a loved one, or the kind of t-shirt that you would like to sport, especially if it's Thanksgiving dinner and they like red hats? Let those suggestions flow. Hit me at reese@reesewaters.com.